What up, everybody? Welcome to Legacy TV and the Convo podcast. And you guys know how we do it over here. We like to bring you the best guests that we possibly can all the time. And you know, I gotta say, I'm truly blessed again because, you know, I just keep bringing people I'm so curious to learn about. And I hope you guys are being entertained. This gentleman right here is a big part of the history of MMA, one of the most popular coaches nowadays in my eyes, and trains one of my favorite fighters and a couple of them in my area, and he teaches in my area. And this is going to be even the craziest part is he was the last guy to fight my coach as well, Master Joe Moreira. I got Paul Herrera in the house, my brother.
Right.
Thank you
Pleasure.
so much. Thank you so much. Honor for me to have you here, brother, and we get to tell your story here and
nice.
and kind of get into what you're doing now, and I'm excited, brother. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, so Paul, the first thing I know is I know you coach out here, right? Mm-hmm. But take me back. Like, did you grow up in Orange County as well?
No, I didn't grow up in Orange County. I grew up in Colorado. So I was born in Grand Junction. And I was out there till I was 18, and then I came out to California.
Okay, so you like basically all the way through, you know, high school and everything were out.
I was in Grand Junction.
Okay, did you tell me a little bit about your upbringing? Like, were you getting were you a good kid? Were you getting in trouble?
I was kind of getting in trouble a little bit here and there. I wrestled ever since I was a kid, so right around 6, and my brother got me into my brother Joe. And so,
like a wrestling program at the school?
Wrestling program at the school, right?
Okay.
Still goes.
Yeah.
Tiger Claw Club in Grand Junction still goes. I wrestled, really all the way up throughout high school. I won the state title in Colorado, and then I was going to take a full ride scholarship to Adams State College in Alamosa, and instead, my parents came out here for the 4th of July, and that was the 4th of July where they had the Huntington Beach riots. Right. And I'm like, I'm never going back. And so I ended up hanging out for a year working. And then I went to school at Golden West. I wrestled there and I won 2 titles there in junior college. And then I transferred to the University of Nebraska. And I wrestled up there. I was an All-American up there. And
so you were like from very young, you were really good at the wrestling. I'm going to tell you a funny story.
Okay.
I wanted to wrestle too.
Right.
I played football. This is a funny story for you guys. I was really good at football. My freshman year, I played both ways. I was the center and the nose guard for my team. And then, but I was a bad kid. And by the time that season was over, and I went to wrestling, and I remember the guy's name. His name was Coach Taro. And I remember when I was training with this deaf kid, and I feel bad to even say this, but like I had got him into a position where he was kind of face down, and I had his arm behind his back. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just cranking on his arm, and he couldn't really talk until he screamed. And then the wrestling coach got all mad at me. But I was immediately in love with wrestling. I wanted to wrestle. Right. And then one day they were like, "Oh, there's gonna be a wrestling meet," and and like I wanted to see what it was like. And then I came in the room, and they were all putting on these singlets.
Oh yeah, a lot of guys are like, "I'm not doing it, man."
Bro, I'm not kidding you. I I got to go to the bathroom real quick. I went to the bathroom. I was gone, ball.
Right.
That was it. Yeah, that was the end of my wrestling career, and then I ended up getting kicked out of school.
Okay.
Right after that, shortly after that, and then I went to continuation, and I never got to play sports again.
Oh, gotcha.
Unfortunately,
if I'd have been your wrestling coach, you'd have stayed in. Because those kids are the kids that usually are the toughest, dude, and they just know, man. They know.
I loved it immediately. I'm Persian, and like Iranian people already are into that wrestling culture, and my family was. So I loved it, but I had 5 credits. By the time I got kicked out of school the whole year, I wasn't, in the right state of mind. Okay, so you tell me about this. Winning a high school state wrestling champion. I've wrestled with some guys on that level. That just a high school state wrestling champion. That level of wrestling is already a real problem for an adult to deal with. Am I right?
Right. Yeah. It's now it's in a sense everybody sees it as one of the better martial arts.
Absolutely.
And I think all martial arts are great. So, but it's tough. You know what I mean? It's a tough sport to be in, and if you have that kind of a background, I would take a look at a guy's ears if you're talking to him and if you're trying to get into something, and I'd be like, probably stay away from that guy. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So
absolutely, and then there's a different kind of cardio and all that.
Oh yeah.
So okay, so you win the state wrestling champion. You come out here. You win some more at Golden West.
Yep.
And then at this point, no martial arts yet.
Yeah. No. At that time, I started playing around my cousin Gary as a Machado black belt. I think he's got 4th degree black belt or something.
Which Machado, if you don't mind?
John Jock.
John Jock.
Yeah.
Shout out to John Jock. I just saw him.
Yeah, John Jock. He's stud.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know who John Jock Machado is, go take a look at some of the stuff this guy
was. The
in.
ADCC in '99. He won that thing, man, right? Or '98 or
he was amazing. And for those of you that don't know, he had one of his hands is not a
he doesn't even
he's amazing. And if people don't understand, he was one of the guys that was doing no gi before, before
there was no gi.
Exactly. With the gi on.
OG guy.
So that's why, he's supposed to come on the show. Shout out to. So I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So that's how I kind of got introduced, right, into martial arts. But so from there, so how it started is I went to Nebraska. And there's the difference. I want to state this so everybody understands history. So there's wrestling. There's your high school level wrestling. Then there's a state champ. Then they have junior college. They have state junior colleges, city junior colleges. Then they have junior college nationals. Then from junior college nationals, it goes into Division 3, Division 2, and Division 1. And you're here all the time on UFC or whatever. Oh, he's an All-American.
Yeah.
Right? Well, you can be an All-American in junior college. I was a 2-time All-American in junior college. But when
is that still not good?
No, that's good. Don't get me wrong. It's good. You got to be a stud, a top 8 in the nation. You have to be good. But there's levels to this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being a black belt from this school or walking in and being a black belt at Joe Moreira's school. Now, I give him props. I'm telling you, the black belts that come out of his school, I know I followed him. I've always followed him since we fought, and even before we fought. And I'm like, oh, dude's for real, right?
Yeah.
So there's different levels of people, and the levels of wrestling kind of go the same, and of sports as well. So, but a Division 1 athlete and All-American is a whole different level of an animal. That's the top of the top. So I like people to know that. They just throw around, I'm a 3-time All-American. Yeah, in a sense I am, but I'm really a 1-time Division 1 All-American.
Damn.
I wrestled at Nebraska.
That makes me bring up this question, right? Do you remember Shane Carwin and Brock Lesnar fought?
Yes.
And I believe Brock was a Division 1 NCAA wrestling champion, and Shane Carwin, they were saying he was a Division 2 or maybe it was a Division 3.
Yeah, I don't really know.
And then that's what Brock was saying. Oh, there's levels to this.
Yes.
Like, these are the B League.
Yeah. Like I wrestled a lot of Division 2 national champs just in duels, and I would pin Division 2 national champs.
Okay,
not putting anybody down.
Levels.
There's levels to it, and there are some tougher guys that do well in Division 2 that could probably place in Division 1. But I mean, that's why you're brought or you're recruited to a certain level. You know what I mean? So if you're coming up and you're a Division 3 level, schools know, coaches know that. They're able to bring you into their program and utilize you that way. But if you want to take a Division 3 level athlete, say a 3-time state champ from somewhere, and bring him into a Division 1 program, he might not even make the top 5 and crack the lineup.
Damn.
You know what I mean? It's just different. And now the wrestling's at such a high level that, you got the Penn States and, then the old school guys from Nebraska to Oklahoma State, you know what I mean? Minnesota.
There's more tournaments, there's more activity, there's more money.
And there's the internet and all the knowledge. And now all the coaches diversified. All the coaches now is spread out into all the major Division 1 colleges. So there's All-Americans and coaches and national champs at most of the Division 1 schools now. So the programs are going.
And on top of that, I think with the UFC getting so big and mixed martial arts getting big, the wrestling programs have ultimately gotten bigger as a result, because it's almost turned, something that was a sport into like a real martial art. Like I believe it's viewed, especially in the wrestling world, a lot more as like this is a martial art as well. I mean,
correct.
So it's just only getting bigger, and the kids doing it, from a young age.
Yeah, like I was, you know what I mean?
Level,
they're a different level. Yeah, it's cool.
Crazy. Okay, so your brother's training with John Jock.
Right, my cousin Gary. My cousin Gary has changed, and so now
they take you over there one day.
So what happened is how this all transpired was, so I finished college. Right, we get done. I'm kind of hanging out, I get a job at Huntington Beach High School, teaching and coaching. And that's where Tito Ortiz, right? He was one of the students there, one of the wrestlers. And then there was another kid. And I'm like, who's the toughest kids in the school? Oh, Eric Escobedo and this other kid, Tito Ortiz. So I find him, you wrestle? Yeah, I kind of wrestle. I'm like, well, come on in. And they were tough kind of kids, but they come in and I'm fresh out of college and they're just like, whoa, and you just kind of run them over, that kind of thing. Well, that's kind of started with Tito. I only mentioned that. Tito,
Tito's actually a Santa Ana kid like me. I believe at one time he was actually from F Troop in Santa Ana.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Big neighborhood in Santa Ana. Shout out to the F Troopers in Santa Ana, Orange County.
Yeah,
but so Tito, so you started training Tito. First.
Yeah, so how it started was I was a high school coach, and he had ended up placing in state, and then went on to Juju College to win a couple titles, and then after that he got into MMA. But pre that, how I got into MMA was I was finished school. I was down here already. Buddy of mine, Tank Abbott, who is Dave Abbott. We meet. Become friends. Oh man, this is a crazy.
You gotta tell me that.
Crazy story. So Tank Abbott, when we met, he was going to kill me. So a friend of mine, we ended up becoming friends. I ended up getting kind of like a full ride scholarship at Golden West. The coach had a house in Huntington. We have wrestlers in there, partying. We had a band, the whole deal, like crazy stuff going every weekend. Well, so Eddie Reese, he was also a UFC fighter and took fourth in Abu Dhabi, first American to beat a Gracie, right? At that time in 99. Well, he got really drunk and was in the house and throwing punching holes in the wall and throwing logs through the wall. I'm like, bro, I'm the guy responsible for the house. Quit doing that. I'm going to kill you. So him and his brother attacked me in the kitchen and we're fighting, and he throws another log and I'm like, let's go outside. So we go outside and he was a little drunk. I'm like, man, I really don't want to do this. And he's and I only hit him once, but I hit him and I break his jaw. Oh, so now his jaw's wired shut. His best friend is Tank Abbott, one of them. Okay. And so you can imagine now Tank's going to kill me. We ended up meeting and it wasn't very good. I don't want to get into it, but needless to say that Tank was an animal, Dave at the time, and I'm watching him bench 600 pounds in Golden West weight room, and he's looking across at me and he's doing like on the bench, and he's like, tap, looking at me, and he, right? And I'm like, oh my God, and this guy, and he's going to kill me, right? And so I'm like, oh, okay. I don't want to get into what happened, but long story short, we became friends. He came and picked me up. We went out, and he says, I'll pick you up. And it had just worked out. We ended up getting in a fight with a bunch of guys at the bar and, basically just let it all go.
Yeah, from almost getting into a scrap to scrapping together.
Oh, man, I'm so glad I didn't scrap with him either. I'm telling you, knowing him and knowing who he is and growing up with him and fighting, that's the only reason I got into fighting. That's how I got into fighting, was Tank Abbott.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The real OG of fighting, like stud.
Yeah, he was like a real street fighter, though, too.
Bro, he was the real deal.
You know what I mean?
But listen, he was also, I took him with me to Nebraska to wrestle against the best guys. We went all over the nation, going all over Bakersfield when Stephen Neal won. He walked on to New England and became a professional football player and never played a lick in high school. Damn. As a wrestler, but he's a Division I national champion, and Tank would go after it with him. I watched Tank take down a national champion, Tully Thompson, at Nebraska. People didn't know that his background in wrestling. He was a stud. Like a complete stud. JUCO wrestler as well, you know what I mean? But he's just never really pursued that end. He has a degree. He's a very intelligent guy. He's written 3 books. I don't know if you've checked him out. They're cool.
Yeah, I've heard him talk recently too.
Awesome guy. So that's how I started.
Been through a lot.
Oh yeah, liver.
Yeah,
had liver transplant, kidney transplant. Man. Died multiple times on the table. Like, bro, drank himself basically to death.
It's crazy, bro.
And I remember seeing him on the table, and he was like, I go see him, and he's like, bro, it's like I'm on my way out. Damn. And I'm like, I go see him, So I go see him, and what we do, cool thing about it is, and we got to pray together, and I thought that was it. That was it.
You were saying goodbye.
And then boom, he got on the list, which he wasn't supposed to get on the list because he was a drinker, and they don't give it to people that have alcohol disease or drug addicts type thing. They won't give you. You won't get on the list. But somehow he got on the list, and that weekend, a kid in Utah had passed or something, and he got the transplant, and he knows the family now, and he does things for their cause. Really cool. That's short.
God saved him.
But a little bit of history. Yeah, really did.
God really saved
100%
him. Wow,
he
man.
did.
You know, that's such a big blessing. And I bet you he's going to kind of look at life a little bit different.
Oh, he does. He's a different guy.
You know, I had an issue with alcohol for a while, and I'm very proud to say that on the 24th of this month was 11 months of me not drinking alcohol.
What?
Yeah.
I'm on my 24th year, bro.
I'm so glad I stopped, bro.
I'm on my 24th year. Awesome.
I think a lot of people struggle with alcohol that don't realize it. They make a lot of stupid decisions in their life that they regret later. They do things they normally wouldn't do. And ultimately, I believe it destroys your health. It destroys your mind on top of your liver and everything
Absolutely.
else,
Absolutely. It does. And I mean, some people, there's people out there that can drink, and we call them moderate drinkers, right? If you get into a program, right? They're moderate or hard. But then there's guys like us.
Yes.
And you know what? Like me, once I put one in, see you later.
Say goodbye to that bottle.
Later. I'm going until who knows what, right?
Yeah,
and so I spent a good part of my career of fighting, drinking, and using. And that's a lot of the reason I got the results out of it that I did. And when I had finally gotten sober is when I had fought Joe Moreira. I'd actually put in a couple 3 years of being sober and training. And so I got in, Tank started fighting. He went to UFC 6. He demolished everybody there. I got into it with a guy named Pat Smith in the I remember him before. So, and everybody thought, people had attacked him. But really the true story about that was he cold cocked me and broke my Armani glasses that I worked the whole summer for. And after Tank had knocked out Matua, he's as we're going in the back, and we broke out into a huge fight. And I'm like, don't worry, I'll take care of you later, right? Yeah. And so I got up the next morning after the show, and everybody's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm putting on my long johns. It was cold outside in Casper. My 501s, tucking my socks in, and my wrestling shoes, and had my knee pads on underneath it. And I was like, "This is happening." Yeah. So I open up, the elevators open up, and guess who's standing right there? John McCarthy and the owner, Bob Myritz, are to the side. And I'm like walking out, and he's like, "What's up?" And I just boom, and we went at it, and I end up beating him up. Long story short, I get into UFC 8, and this is how I got into it. I fought before that, though. I went and did a thing with Frank Trigg, and
old school,
in a bull ring in Texas, and got into it with him. Tough fight, one of the tougher fights I've ever had. And
Frank Trigg is super old school too. He had some amazing fights.
Oh, he's a stud.
With Matt Hughes.
Yeah, Matt Hughes. He
got real popular. He's actually refereeing now. Shout out to Frank.
Yeah, right on, Frank. What's up, brother?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I got into it. Started fighting, did a bunch of things, whatever, and then we basically got to where I'd end up fighting Joe.
How did that come? How did that? Before you fought Joe, like, just because out of curiosity for me, because I love Joe, but we respect you a lot, brother, and this is the sport, so that's exactly why I wanted to have you on, because I want to show, like, that's how it's supposed to be. This is not, I came from an environment that there were gangs and stuff like that. The martial arts world was a way to get out of that stuff. So in the martial arts world, we should love each other. If there's a fight, cool. Afterwards, you go back to the respect and to the love, and that's why I wanted to see, like, how did that come to about? Because you guys were both in this same area. How did you first get into this? This bout, and how did this?
So what happened was, I started a fight company called HITMAN back in the 90s.
I used to wear the stuff,
and that's Dan HITMAN fight gear, and so I started it in 97. They came out in like 2000 or whatever, but I was doing more of the fights, and they were doing clothing, you know what I mean? Things like that. So we started putting on the shows back then. And then as, things, moved forward, fighting still wasn't legal. Remember, it wasn't legal. It didn't get commissioned at the Athletic Commission in California until 2006.
Right.
And I was one of the first promoters to be able to get a license and stuff. But so in 2002-ish and 3, when we put those shows on, they were illegal. But we had them down as predetermined bouts. I don't want to get into that because who knows what the. I don't want to be going to jail for anything. So but whatever,
you had to do what you had to do to be able to compete. Right.
And for whatever, I had the California Athletic Commission's not blessing, but Santa Ana PD was there, and they said, "Hey, if it doesn't go the way it's supposed to go, you're going to jail." And I'm fighting. I'm like, "Hey, bro, just it is what it is." But that's how you had to put the shows on back in the day. Right, and I don't want to get too much into that.
No, that's cool. Enough said. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
A real one can already take what you said, dissect it, and understand.
Yeah. So how that fight came about is in UFC 8, right? When I got knocked out by Goodrich, and Joe was in that too, and he had lost, right? So they had both of us winning.
That one you didn't make up.
Yeah. No, listen. No. That now, and none of those fights that me and Joe fought or anybody in the Hitman shows, they weren't predetermined. Trust me.
Yeah.
When Chael Sonnen fought Babalu in that, and Tiki and them, Tiki and them fought. Shout out to Chael Sonnen too.
Both of them. Yeah, absolutely.
And Babalu, and so those were real. You know what I mean? And I had it. Is it real in the cage? That's what I used to put on the shows. But so anyway, how all this came about with Joe and I, to get back to that. We were supposed to fight in UFC, meaning everybody had us meeting in the finals. I was already spending the $50,000. That's how I thought that's where I thought I was.
Yeah.
Now, why I was at that stage, I was kind of in the stage of where you were at. I was partying in the 90s. Right. And I'm talking, listen, we lit up Huntington Beach at that time. We thought we were famous because, we were on TV and, the whole deal, I was a legend in my own mind. You know what I'm saying? We were crazy. So what had happened is I've been partying the whole time, drugs, everything, man, craziness.
Tell me, can you get into that? Like,
I can get into it.
What kind of drugs were you guys?
From anything I could get a hold of.
Damn.
I was a trash can in a sense, right? But I mean, all the time, speed, cocaine, mostly a lot of cocaine and stuff. And so the crazy thing is, I'm partying all the way up until the Goodrich fight.
Damn.
And my brother Joey's like, man, you got to stop. And I'm like, don't worry about me, because I'd go out and it wouldn't matter who you were, what size you were. I knew how to wrestle. I'm a D1 All-American. I've already learned this new craft called jiu-jitsu, and I'm doing stuff people have no idea about.
Yeah.
And I knew the skills that I had in my mind as a trained athlete, as an All-American. But back then, I wasn't crazily partying, and I was structured. But now I'm not structured and I'm partying. So we get up to San Juan, Puerto Rico, and this is going to lead into Joe and how we fought.
Yeah.
We get up to San Juan, Puerto Rico. I'm thinking I'm winning it. So I'm partying. I'm up there for 4 days, and my buddy's like, and we're going out to craziness and strip clubs and just crazy. Just the kind of lifestyle I led. I'm not like that now. I serve God, and God bless you if you are, man. Spin it till your head falls off. You know what I'm saying?
To each his own.
To each his own. And I'm like, okay. And my buddy Eddie, he's like, hey, bro, hey, like, you got to slow down, right? He goes, you got to stop. And I go, well, what's up? He goes, you're fighting today. I go, it's today?
Oh, shit.
So we're talking, we've been up all night. We're partying, racking lines, doing the whole thing. And so, I'm trying to get some rest now, take a shower and just try to calm down. Right. And I thought, I can't take anything to come down because I don't want to be too down or too, I used to kind of manipulate that and play that a little. Well, I go in and they take my blood pressure and it's off the charts. And the guy's like, we can't
put you in there.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I go, I'm nervous and everything. And he's like, and the doctor clears me. Right. And all I remember is being in the back. They had these things, like these shades, kind of like shades that broke the areas apart. That's all I remember. I don't remember from that point on walking out or walking out of the cage.
Damn.
So, and I see it on TV, but I don't remember it. So needless to say, I'm probably still blowing a good 1.6 or above. And I'm probably, who knows what, ingesting in me. And so I get knocked out. I'm coming back. I'm in the ambulance. I can't even I don't remember all of that or seeing or nothing. All I remember is Tank grabbing me and going, "We don't go into ambulances." Yeah, and I'm looking at him. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm not responding. And he freaking headbutts me.
Oh man!
When he headbutted me right here on the forehead and the nose, I was like, and everything went like this. Everything went like circle tunnel, and I was like, "Oh!" And he looked at me, and I could see him, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, bro, I better go get checked out." And he's like, "I'm going to kill that effing." And he's chasing around, ripping everything apart, looking for Goodrich to go take him out.
Wow.
Him and about 4 of our guys. And they caused a riot that caused the show to go off the air. So if you watch UFC 8, it goes off air because these dudes started a riot in the place with the Brazilian dudes and stuff. It was crazy. So now that leads up to me thinking I'm a stud, which I'm not. I get sober, and now I'm putting on fight shows that I started doing, having good fighters fight in it, and top level fighters, UFC fighters at the time, top guys. And then it came about that this was going to be one of the last shows that I was doing, and I'm like, you know what? I had fought all over that, not even recorded on at 85s, and who's the best guy? And we were supposed to meet in the finals, Joe Moreira and I, of UFC 8, that everybody thought. But, some new guys came in, Goodrich, everybody else, and it had advanced. Since UFC 6 or 4 to UFC 8, it went up levels rapidly. It just went up. And so, needless to say, we both didn't go there and get there, but it was like, who's the baddest dude? Who's the baddest out of these two? Yeah. And so that's how that fight came about, right? Total respect for Joe. Joe, seriously, like total respect for you still. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And likewise from him, like he knows you know you were gonna come here, and he's like, that's awesome, and that's the way Joe's always been,
right? Yeah, and let me say something. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I wanted to say that. Listen. That is not something for me. I'm not gloating about the partying and that and this. I'm just being truthful. But what I do today is I work in recovery. We have recovery homes. I work with the Salvation Army. I'm there carrying a message every Sunday night, man. Shout out to the ARC, all you guys at the ARC in San Bernardino. We work with all of them. And we work with all the Salvation Armies, and we bring a message in there of hope and God, and that you can recover too, and that you don't have to live that kind of lifestyle. And we bring them off the streets, bro. Bring them homeless, bring them in and do it. And that's the kind of thing I do today, because I live that life and I've seen it. And if you're out there living that life, bro, and you need some help, you look me up, you hit me up on Instagram. If you need any help, anybody out there, you hit me up. I will call you back. Yeah, and I will get back to you for sure. Amazing. But I wanted to make that point.
Hey, that's awesome, bro. Yeah, I've actually one of my good friends, he's been on the show as well. He's an alcohol and drug interventionist, and I believe a lot in that, and I believe we're people like me and you are here for a bigger purpose. People are,
amen.
We're here.
I appreciate that.
We're here to help people. I was just thinking about that. There's so many people that forget about God and forget that God is waiting to talk to you. He wants to hear from you. He wants to, and if you just run through your life and forget about him, you're not gonna feel him around you. But the more you have a relationship, the more you're gonna see him in your life.
Yeah, and amen to that.
Amen. That's
cool.
And yeah, man. I believe, brother. One of the things that's messed up with this country, honestly, and I hope no one takes this the wrong way, but we have so many jails and prisons and stuff, but we don't have no system to help these people that have mental health issues, that are homeless, that have drug addiction problems. We with all the money that we spent for other things and helping other countries, why can't we help our own? Why can't we have treatment centers for these people that have a lot of these homeless people? I see them all the time, bro. They have mental health issues.
Right.
It's not
that's a big issue.
You know what I mean? And they're just crawling around the streets dirty. Like, that's not a drug addict. That's someone with mental health, and it's unfair that they suffer like that.
Right.
And we should be bigger. You have all these people with billions of dollars. Why are there people running around like that? Why can't we set something up to help these people?
Yeah. And there's people that will say, well, it's them. You know what I mean? They can fix it. But here's the thing: if you know a lot about the industry and you're in that, recovery part of it, there's people that are suffering And there is nothing they can do about it. They use and drink even though they don't want to.
Yeah.
It's because that's when you admit, hey, I'm a real alcoholic or I'm a real addict. And if you want some help, here's the thing. And I'm glad you brought that up, because if you do want some help, I'm pushing it, is reach out to me. Yeah. Trust me, man. What worked for me will work for you. You know what I mean? I've been clean and sober like you. I'm clean and sober for 24 years, and that's what we do. And you know what? If you know any of the fighters that I'm around, man, we're praising God. We're in there. We're doing it. Like Brian Ortega when he just won, right?
We're getting there. We're getting there. I'm excited to get to that part too. I love
that stuff. Go for it.
So you fight Joe.
Yes.
You end up winning by decision.
Right.
And respect to you for that.
Right.
Tell me about that fight a little bit. Like, was it a big grappling match? Because there's no videos.
Hey, bro, I'll get you a video. You got one.
I would love
you got one. I'll sign that shit. Give Joe to sign it, and you'll have your own copy too.
Dude, that'd be sick.
Yeah. So a DVD, right?
Wrestler versus the jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah, the jiu-jitsu guy, right? And what was crazy is I ended up on my back.
I saw that.
Right. So I ended up on my back, and I had to flyer him off and then, so I couldn't walk for like a week after that fight, bro. He kicked me a couple times. We did some striking and stuff on their feet, but basically I just had a game plan working out with my coach, Colin Oyama. What's up, Colin?
Shout out to Oyama.
He helped me prepare to get ready, with everybody else. Rob McCullough's trained with Tiki, everybody helped me prepare for that. And my brother Joe, who's always been my corner man, shout out to my brother Joe too. He has cancer. I love you, Joe. To my nephew Ryan, I love him. He's my godson, and his wife Karen. We're always praying for my family. But so basically, when I was fighting and Joe and I were getting after it, like, bro, I was very prepared. I hadn't partied. I hadn't done anything. All I do was eat, sleep, and drink training. And so I was a whole different level. Yeah. Right, whole different level. In shape, ready to go. Hard, training, everything. And Colin really helped me prepare for that, striking wise. So I wasn't afraid at all. I had nothing going. I knew everything that I was going to do, and the match went just the way I had planned it to go. Right, I was going to secure the takedowns, try to outstrike him on our feet, be careful with the jiu-jitsu. But when I ended up on my back, dude, everything went out the window, and it was like, I'm in a fight. I didn't prepare too well because I'm on my back, right? And he felt like a monster on top, dude. I was like, oh man, I don't know if this is gonna work out.
I always looked at training with Joe as like is training with the house on the Wizard of Oz. Like all you see is the feet. Mm-hmm. That's how you.
Yeah, he's a monster, right?
He's very good.
He's a stud.
If that guy gets on top of you, man, it's a very.
And I never planned for him to be on top of me. So I'm like, oh man. So I end up flyering him off, sweeping him off, right? And getting back to my feet and going, oh, we're not going there. Because I'm telling you, I tried a few things and it wasn't working. And then I felt the pressure. Yeah. And as he pressured down to pass and go, I stopped it and went into a guard. I'm in a guard now. Paul Herrera's pulling a guard. Like, what the hell's going on here? And I'm holding on to him, and I'm like, oh, and then I flyered inside, and after I swept him and got him off me, I was like, whew, all right, let's go. Let's get on our feet. I didn't even want to go down. He was down, and I kicked him a few times, and then, and then I was like, stand back up. I didn't even want to play around with him in the guard.
Yeah.
I needed to punch and transition from a takedown into good controlled position.
Yeah,
I wasn't going to just enter into his guard. That would have been a terrible mistake to do. So
exactly.
But that's how the fight kind of went. It was just mostly takedowns and control, some striking, but 15 minutes of fun. It was awesome. It was cool.
Crazy cool. It's cool to just hear about, because I feel like you guys are both legends, so it's cool to hear like about you guys, fighting and stuff and kind of hear how the fight went, especially in those times, like how the sport was and how you guys were all viewed out here. You guys were very popular out here.
Right.
So after the fight, take me through the transition after fighting. What do you decide to become a coach right away?
And I was coaching, during that time. I was already coaching during that time.
Because a lot of people were already, I'm sure, reaching out for the wrestling.
Right. The whole thing. I would get guys in like Vitor Belfort, Rico Rodriguez. There's tons of guys, right? And everybody was training at Tiki's place because it was the only place really with a cage that was Fabiano Iha's cage. right? And so we had everybody training. There were so many people training out of there that were studs. Even Chuck was there. Chuck, Tito,
and this was the Fabiano, Huntington
Beach Ultimate Training Center, where I'm at currently today. HBUTC.
It's still in the same spot, or
no, we're off of Belva, in between Slater and.
I'm saying that was the
still
brand.
HB.
That was the
still
brand.
Still in HB. Yeah, Tiki running it, and so. After that we transitioned into what? So it went from there, and then it became legal. So I started promoting. Then I said, oh, you know what? We need to build up not these other guys that are in there. Let's get with the amateurs. So I started a smaller promotion and did an amateur world championship at that time. Put on tons of amateur shows in with King of the Cage and Gladiator. We would go with their shows and do them before and do like 25 fights. And then I met this billionaire guy. That's
always nice.
Right? Yeah, it was cool.
Shout out to the billionaire.
Yeah, too. And Fabiano Iha put this together, right? Alki David. What's up, Alki?
Shout out.
He perfect. He helped us out. And we ended up putting on this road to the Hitman Amateur World Championships. And we ended up in Beijing, China. In 2011, put a Hitman show out there at the Beijing Hilton, dude, with all the consulate and everybody. Was awesome.
Damn, that sounds.
And so it was very cool. And we took the best. We got guys from Russia. We got guys from coming in Dagestan, Japan. We took some military guys. We took a bunch of guys from the U.S. and everybody went out there and banged at different weights. Yeah. And that was crazy because we got there and we did the rules and we had a referee and a judge and they had people and I'm putting on the show. Right. And I'm like, yeah, this is going pretty good. And then I'm watching the ref and he's like stopping things. And I'm like, what is he doing? Like, time out. Like, and I went into the corner and they're like, how much experience do you have? Well, I don't really know MMA. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to work out. Yeah. So we had to do break because we were filming. And so we took a break for 30 minutes. We had a meeting with everybody. And I said, I'm going to be the ref.
Yeah.
And so I reffed the whole thing. And dude, and then so after the amateurs, that was like in 11, I went through my brother. We opened up a place called Empire Training Center in Corona. I did that for about another, 8, 9, 10, about 10 years. Training athletes, everybody. You can go back. I don't want to list everybody, but everyone knows that I've trained. Awesome, cool, right on. We're still bros today.
Some big names through.
I mean, starting back out, the first
just
kids.
Names. You don't got to get too in
depth. I mean, if you get into Tito and Vitor, you know what I mean.
Tito Ortiz, Vitor Belfort. If you guys don't know, legends.
Right, studs. They both are.
I heard a question I got to ask you real quick. You don't got to elaborate too much or expound too much, but Vitor Belfort, I've heard a lot of stories about him as a training partner. Was he tough to deal with, or was he a good?
You know what? We did it up in Big Bear for seven weeks, right? And at first, the first day I went in there, everything went crazy, and it was a big fight.
He was trying to beat up everybody in the room.
Well, it was not really him. It was his training staff too, and everybody. And I'm like, listen to me. If you were wanting to beat Randy Couture, you guys do not know what you're doing. And this is what's going to happen. If you do not stop the pressure that he has in this upper body control and he presses into you and takes you down, he's going to maul you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and he did maul him. Yeah. But not in the first fight. It was the first and last time I got to bet on fighting with my wife. I'm like, we're putting down this much grands on it. He's going to get demolished. And he got cut in the eye and he won.
I remember that one.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I end up training him. And then I'm like, and everybody was around him, bro. And at the end of the fight, nobody was with him. It was me and him going in the ambulance. And I'm like, where's all the sponsors?
Where's all your homies now?
Right? Yeah. But shout out to Vitor. He's a stud. He took it like a warrior. You saw the blood caked all over the octagon. He did everything he could. He put his heart and soul into it. And, it's just the way it is, man. It's fighting,
it's a tough sport.
It's a tough sport.
You got to kind of be selfish, too. I can see it from their point of view.
But I've heard he was tough to deal with me. He was not tough to deal with at all. You know what I mean?
No disrespect to Vitor. I was only asking what I heard through the media from somebody that's been around him.
Yeah.
So I wanted to
and if it would have been, I would have told you the truth.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So here's somebody that has been around him.
Yeah, and his, just respect to him. Hey, Vitor, after you see this, whatever, reach out to me. I need to reach out to you.
For sure.
But so then, that whole 10-year decade goes by, and then, around 16-ish, somewhere around in there, 17, it comes back in, and I start training Brandon Halsey. He wins with Tiki and I. He wins, a Bellator championship. right? So other guys, shout out to Brandon. We get into it. I'm kind of going, lack of, of the guys, but really I'm just trying to think about the champs. And then, we get in and we start training Juan, bring him out of King of the Cage.
Shout out Juan Archuleta.
Yeah, he wins a Bellator title, wins a Risen title. And then now he's fighting again, but I won't be in his corner. I won't get too much into it.
No,
this sport is very unforgiving.
Yes.
And what I want to say out there is I want to give a shout out to every trainer out there that endures and puts into guys, and maybe you get stomped on and maybe you get left behind and you've given everything to this sport. And all I can say is God bless the other guys that don't go with you, right? And so you know what I'm talking about. In the back rooms, these fighters, bro, some of them, they're dancing on this pole, and the next pole that's throwing the most dollars, they're going to go to that one. And so this is all I can say is most of the fighters that I'm around, the guy I can look back after 4 decades of me being in this sport, and I look back and I can shake his hand and say, that's a real dude, is Tank Abbott. You know what I mean? To this day, one of the few that I'm still with after all this time. And I've been around and with a bunch of people, a lot. And so there's other, guys, there's Studs, Czech Congo, Rampage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Brian Ortega. Who else too? What's up, Stud?
Rampage is doing big things now too. He's got a big podcast called the Jackson Podcast. Shout out to them. I've been watching their show.
Yes. Yeah.
Talk about Rampage for a second. Was it fun training him?
Rampage, I'm telling you, is so fun. Rampage, he's a stud. He's such a stud. We just love the guy, man. We'd be in practice, right? And he'd be like, cracking jokes. It was just fun.
Yeah.
But then, man, when he got down and he got into it and he trained one of the toughest guys in the world. That's why he's UFC champ, right?
He was
and that's why he is who he is.
I think one of the main reasons I like Rampage is because he's funny. Like he's got a
he's
good
still that, you know what I mean? He's still
great sense of humor. And he doesn't take himself too seriously.
Right.
And he's just a fun guy. I actually went back and forth with him. I was gonna put him on one of my songs, and he's just always cracking jokes, and it's just a good dude, and that's kind of cool that you got to be a part of his career as well. And
right
now let's bring you up to date. Like recently, I've seen you with I believe Jalen Turner.
Right.
I've seen you with
Stud. What's up, Jalen?
He's doing really well.
He's doing well too.
And Brian Ortega.
Right, Brian Ortega. Mackenzie Dern.
Mackenzie
in her last fight, you took it on short notice. You know what I mean? She's a monster. She's a stud.
I'm a big fan of her.
She just signed. Well, I better not announce that. But Mackenzie she'll be in fighting soon. She's doing well. And looking forward to that too.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of Mackenzie. My middle daughter, shout out to my daughter Mackenzie. My middle daughter's name is Mackenzie.
All right.
She came in a jiu-jitsu girl. And for those of us that love jiu-jitsu, we were really rooting for her as well. I started with MMA. I got into MMA, but as being a big lover of jiu-jitsu, I don't know a lot of people know her dad is like a legend in the sport.
Oh yeah, I got to work around him with him.
Diaz.
He's a stud.
He still competes and kicks everybody.
I watched him go against Mackenzie's one of her guy friends. And he is mauling the guy. The dude's a 215-pound guy, and he's a stud UFC fighter. I'm not going to say his name.
Yeah, you know that.
But we're in the practice, and we're practicing, and all of a sudden they're going at it, and I'm like, we stop practice, and we're all just kind of watching. He is really, really solid.
Yeah. So we were, big fan. And
What's up, Megaton?
Yeah,
Coach Stud.
Shout out Megaton Diaz for sure. And then the cool thing, I thought that I'm not sure your relationship with Jason Perillo, but she.
Oh yeah, Perillo's a stud.
That's my boy. Shout out to
Jason. And Jason should be with her. I don't know the whole thing yet.
Yeah,
it is what it is. I don't know, but I'll tell you this: total respect going out to him. Yeah. Whenever I see him, I'm like, "What's up? We're cool."
Great coach as well.
Great coach, great hand coach. If you have anybody, you should be with Perillo out there. You know what I mean? You should be getting some work. If you can ever get work with anybody with your hands and with MMA, I would jump in there and I would jump on it with Perillo.
Yeah, for sure. And he's not easy to get. He doesn't train just. Jason, what's up? What's up with the pad work? You're supposed to get some in, bro.
Right.
But yeah. Shout out to Jason and Mackenzie Dern. Yeah, I'm looking forward to see her win a championship. I think she's only getting better, and with the adjustments that you guys are all making with her, I'm excited to see. Right. I'm so excited to see when she finally puts it all together. Right. I think she's on.
Yes, she's close. She's on the cusp. You're exactly right, and that's what we're saying to her. And as soon as it becomes part of your daily routine. And I think it's hard for the fighters to realize that they're fighters because it's hard to make it, meaning that this is my job. This is what I got to wake up, eat, sleep, and do. And this is where I'm at. And this is why you'll see me training certain people. I don't have the time anymore or really the energy, and I won't do it. If you're not training to be the best, and this is for the guys that are with me, and like a Brian Ortega and the other studs that are out there, if you know me, we're training to be the best in the world. And Brian, you're going to be the best in the world. You're going to win a UFC championship. All these other guys, Ilia, all those guys ahead of you, they've had good fights in that. But I can this is almost me saying this in advance. Brian Ortega's coming, and he is going to for sure be at the top of that featherweight class. You know what I mean? He for sure is. This is a different level right now.
Brian Ortega, like when he came out, I remember when they were talking about him, like he wasn't even really training like a lot, and he was just running through people. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, to see how good he was with jiu-jitsu and hands, and I know, I'm sure Cub Swanson. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Cub. I've trained with Cub.
Yeah, Cub, what's up?
He's an original, his original coach was a Moreira guy, mm-hmm. and so he was kind of in the family. The way he took out Cub and everything, jumping guillotine. I'm like this kid, and he's had. If you really look at Brian Ortega's career, bro, he's literally fought the best guys once.
That's right.
And they're back to back to back to back. And then and I believe I know he was doing his thing in LA. Mm-hmm. But I believe, because it was well documented when he got with you guys in the Huntington mm-hmm. Beach Ultimate Training Center and started putting you guys around him, I believe the evolution has been crazy. Right. I'm talking about he looks really good on the feet now. He's just it's the complete different fighter now.
Yes.
And so he
is.
Coming off, beating Yair now with that choke, and that was a crazy fight.
Right.
I remember that fight. And then, what do you think it's going to take for him, to get a shot at the title? You think he needs one more win, or what?
That's all left up to the heads up at UFC and Tiki, managing him. Tiki's one of the best managers
shout
out there.
Tiki, yes.
Yeah, what's
Tiki
up, brother?
Shout out.
Yeah, he knows how to direct the path, and Tiki's directing the path. And so that's really what involves in it. But you can direct the path for a fighter, and you can take him all the way into the championship, but the fighter has to live it. And right now, Brian Ortega is living it. So everybody out there that is having any questions about him, listen to me. I'm with him daily. Daily, he's driving from where he lives, and he's coming, hour to train, and he's doing it daily, and he's putting in his work, and he is on one mission and one mission only, and that's to strap that belt around himself. And you know what? And I believe that's going to happen. So what it's going to take is just the time, because we're already doing everything necessary to get there. That's why I'm saying I know he's going to be able to do this, because I've seen it, I've done it, I've trained the guys, watched them become UFC champs, and have done it for decades. I'm not talking about for once or twice, but I've been part of the decades and the evolution when this thing started, and seen and know, and it always comes down to the same thing. That doesn't matter really your technique or how good you are. It matters what the discipline, the guy that's getting up. It's the guy that misses all the parties, the guy that misses the graduations and the Christmases and the New Year's and all that. It's that dude that puts in the time and the commitment that goes, this is all I want to do. And it's very selfish. Your family suffers, your kids suffer, everyone around you, your relationship suffers, because you have to give everything. And then guess what? I'm going to want more. So, and I'm going to say this, what had happened is Juan has somebody differently training him, which is totally fine. You say, man, God bless you, go. But our conversation that we had was, I'm training you to be the best. I need you to be the best. This is where we think you should be, and this is what we need you to do to be the best. And for somebody like that to go, I can't give you what you want anymore. I just don't have it in me. I can't cut that much weight to go down and be bantamweight. And that's what happened. He wasn't able to make weight and he couldn't do it. You know what I mean? And for him to emotionally tell me, I just can't do this. You can't get mad at a fighter for admitting and going, I can't do this. It's like this. God bless you, bro. This probably won't work out. Because guess what? I'm only training the best that are going to be the best. That's it. Because I don't have time to bring up anybody else. Exactly. Now, I can take a top 10 person like a Mackenzie Dern and get with the right staff and get Tiki on board to be the best management guidance there is. And we can take them to the top because we've done it. We've proven it with people. Right?
The recipe.
Right? And so with that said, that's kind of the route that we're going at HBUTC. And that's the route we're going with Tiki and with the fighters. And not everybody can be a champ. Right? It's tough to wear that strap.
Yeah, there's only how many champions are there in the UFC? And if you really look at it, like, I love the other promotions, but if you really want to be known as the best fighter on the planet, you got to be in the UFC.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's no way around that.
Yeah.
And so, it makes sense. And I understand coming from a coach's perspective, because when I was talking to Jason Perillo about, just having people wanting him to train them, he's like, man, I don't got the time, like I got certain fighters that are, fighting for the world championship. So
yes,
you guys got to devote a lot of time. That's not a come to class, twice a week and I spend an hour with you and I'll see you later. That's a lot more time you got to spend and focus on that certain athlete. So let me ask you this: Ilia Topuria, that's the champion in Ortega's division. Wow. I'm very impressed with that kid. I love MMA. I watch, I'm one of those guys that watches even the cards nobody watches.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of the sport, and just watching his come up and the way he fights, he is a tough fight for sure for anybody. And on top of being, I believe what people sleep on, he's got very tight and good boxing. He's got very good jiu-jitsu as well. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So not to give anything away, but say
we already started, yes.
Brian and Ilia end up in the cage together. What do you think will be the path for Brian?
Well, we already know the path, and if that does come into play here, which I can't see that, there's a couple more fights that have to take place and some things that have to happen for that fight to come aboard, and who knows if he's even going to last that long.
That's true.
Everybody builds up, and it's this guy, and it
might not happen.
It might not happen.
I see it happening.
Right.
I see it.
If it does, it does. But what I see with Brian is, and what you're going to see from every fight now, no one. And we even started the fight with Yair, him jumping up and rolling his ankle, right? And just being totally unfocused the first round and going way back to the old Brian, and then coming in the second round and going, hey, stud, you okay? Right? Yeah. You done now?
Yeah.
You ready? And then boom, right to the game plan, right into it. It was like, this fight's over. After the second round, we were like, now this is done. Third, it's over, right?
Yeah.
And so he will implement the game because he's now accepted, this is where I need to improve. I'm a black belt here, but I could be a white belt here. And now we're improving in every area. And when I start reviewing, you got to look at him, look at Topuria and go, okay, he's a stud, right? But where are the holes, right? Where can you find which fights, which holes? Have you watched him for every single frame and every single second of every single fight? Yes. And gone, this is where we get him. This is how you're supposed to fight him. We can't go any other way. And that's how we enter into the fight. And so with Brian, going to be a great fight, but
I love how you didn't give too much away, and yet you did explain it to the people. You look for this is mixed martial arts. And especially you being an MMA coach, I'm sure you're taking a look at the tendencies. When a guy throws a jab, what does he do? What is his reaction? So I understand completely, but maybe a lot of you guys don't know what a real MMA coach goes through to prepare you for a fight, especially one of that caliber.
Right.
And you're literally looking at everything, the tendencies, the guys. What does he have a problem in the clinch? Does he? Where is he good?
What happens when he gets hit?
Exactly.
What does he do here?
Exactly.
What happens when you circle left?
That's
you know what I mean. Like there's just certain patterns, and he noticeably, and I've seen him correct, and Volk does a good job of correcting. But here's what Volk says: look, I don't need to correct. This is what I do. This is how I'm going to fight, and good luck with that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And so, but
we saw how that panned out.
And now you got the next level of guys. So this is like, I don't want to classify Volk as a Division II because that would be wrong. But if you just go by wins and losses, you have to say now we've stepped up into the All-American status of level of featherweights. And where I see Brian was at about a 4.5 or a 5 when he came over. He had that much room to grow in like 4 areas of MMA that he's never really worked on. Yeah. And now that he's been working on them for over 2 years and no one's really seen him, it's like, it's going to be a great fight.
Yes, I'm excited.
It's going to, and I'm telling you, Max or Volk, like if either one of them end up coming up, you'll see, just like everybody thought with like the Yair, the same thing was going to happen to Yair in the first fight.
Yeah.
Before he tore his shoulder completely out of socket, right?
Yeah.
And whatever, but he transitioned from that takedown into the wrong position. And there was a little confrontation going on in the corner between us coaches, like, go with that. And like, who's panicking, bro? Like, I'm supposed to be talking. Everybody else, shh, quiet, and say what I'm saying. And so now that communication, we have meetings, and it's like, this is how you talk.
Yeah.
If you want to say something, you relay it. It goes from him to me to here. I'm giving the commands. When we reach this position, this is giving commands. When we get to this position, and we will get there, like there's so much involved in corners.
Dialed in.
And if you're not dialed in the corner, dude, you can cost a guy a fight.
Yep.
And we were able to get Brian back after the first round, Tiki and myself, and go in and say, hey, bro, check it out. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. I would say something about that fight, but I'll tell you after, off the air,
for sure.
You know,
but you're right. It's so important because you could be like, we've seen it in MMA, and a good coach is not going to just scream at you. What the?
Go.
Like,
take him down.
Smack the guy in the head low. You need to calm the guy down and give him good instruction on what he needs to do to win the fight. And yeah, especially that fight, like you saw him pull it together, and then boom, I was very excited. Like I think so many people were so surprised the way he came back and you know, after that first round and won that. So, and one thing you got to say about Brian that like I'm sure a lot of people have heard, that dude is tough as nails, man.
He just wants to show he's tough.
Damn.
It's like, we're going to do less of that case study. And he's like, all right. But I mean, if you want to tell, like if Max wants to go,
he'll do it.
Let's do, you know, but
man.
yeah, Gaethje too. You know what I mean? I'm telling you, it's just, that is such a great class, 45s and 55s. It's
amazing,
right? They're just like
flying. Yeah,
that's where it's at.
Yeah,
right. Really, if you think about it,
and if you think about it, like the 145 weight class, like most of those guys walk around what about 180, 190 around there. So
Brian's about right in there.
You know what I mean? So that is
75-ish.
If you look at it, that's like around the average good sized male, around there to 200 pounds.
Yeah.
So those guys that are fighting at that weight class are not actually 145 pounds.
No.
But you know,
they're like where I was. Like I'm 185, right? But I wrestled 142 in college. If I was competing and fighting today, I'd be a featherweight, right?
But that's why they're so good, you know, and they're like hit so hard, and it's amazing.
Studs.
MMA is just beautiful to watch, and the skill level is just so high, and I believe one of the things that I was going to ask you before, as we start getting closer to the end of this one, is I believe that, you know, you coaches as well, us coaches that are involved in the sport, have also learned to take better care of, you know, the training and the fighters, because I think the longevity of people's careers and stuff can be wasted in the gym. Am I right? Have you made a lot of adjustments?
100%. Like And you know, there's a formula. There's like you say, there's a formula. If you can create champs each decade and throughout the years, and you find out the things that are successful. Me, I'm OCD when it comes to data. So I take in exactly what they do. I scale on a level of 1 to 10, how hard the practice was, what happened, did you get hurt, what did we cover? I go over everything and we gauge it in between, right? And so you gather all that data and you're like, okay, man, this is the way it's done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know,
100%.
I mean, nowadays, you know, if you're going to put together and run the camp like somewhere else, great. But if you come into the gym, I'm going to run the camp.
Oh, yeah.
And this is how things are going to be. And we're going to come in here and the fighters know, and this is what you should do. And I'm not telling them like I know it all. There's great coaches everywhere, but whenever you get into a system, those coaches are going to tell you this is the way it needs to be, right? And if you have a good coach around you, probably should listen.
What up, everybody? Want to take a quick second out of the podcast just to give a shout out to our sponsor, the best criminal defense attorney I know. The last time I got in trouble, I needed somebody that was going to look into my case and actually fight for me and get me the best deal possible, and he did that. And I'll make sure that he does that for you. Make sure you shout me out if you guys reach out to him. They're the sponsor of the Convo. You know anybody, a family member or yourself that make a mistake, you want somebody like him on your side. Arash, please let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Thank you. Arash Hashemi, 310-448-1529, or HashemiLaw.com, HashemiLaw.com, or just Google hashtag Better Call Hash. Remember that, Better Call Hash. You'll find me on every social media channel all over the internet. 310-448-1529.
You better call Hash.
Listen to him.
And especially one that's been proven and done it and knows the formula and is going to have your best interest. Respect, brother.
Right.
Respect to that.
Right. Cool. Yeah.
100%. Brother, quick question before we do get out of here. One of the main things that I always preach about, it's been, first of all, it's been an honor.
Yeah. Hearing
your story. Amazing. And the person you are and you know, your character, the way you speak, much respect. One of the things that I always tell people is beyond the fighting and beyond the competition, jiu-jitsu and MMA kind of saved my life. I really, if I didn't have met Joe and, you know, I even after I started, I still end up almost getting killed. So, and you know, crazy story, I walk into the emergency room afterwards and Joe's standing there with a miscarriage, you know, with his you know, who he's with now.
Wow. And
it's just a crazy story. So for me, like, you know, MMA jiu-jitsu really saved my life, and this is why I'm doing this, because I know these martial arts can really help people mentally to get out of bad, you know, going through a divorce, you know, going through hard times. I see so much beautiful things happen through this, deeper than, you know, just the fighting part. Do you also believe that, you know, beyond the fighting, martial arts, MMA, jiu-jitsu is just good for everyone?
Yes, I do. I totally believe that. That's why I'm involved in it. You know, we're proof, right? It's taking guys like us and it's given us a pathway to do something good and give back to some other guys. And so when I get the guys, I'm like, look, maybe you're not there, maybe you are, but if you're not, I'm going to talk a lot about God when I'm here. Amen. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to lie to you. And I believe God is the truth, right? You know, Jesus Christ, he's the Word.
There you go.
And the Word was God. The Word was with God. Amen. Right. So simply put, if you're in a martial arts and you are having trouble, coaches, it is not the athlete's responsibility to stay. Everybody says, well, he has a chance. He has an opportunity. Just like everybody says, the drug addicts and everybody out there, they can get themselves clean. No, they can't. It's the guys that have been through it that go out. We go hunting. Our guys, me personally, I go hunting for those guys that can't make it. And I look them straight in the eye and I tell them this: what worked for me will work for you, brother. Follow our path. Do what I do, and you will never have to drink or use again. You'll never have to go out on the streets, do that stuff that you have to do. Whatever lifestyle you're in, whatever you're leading, man, you gotta get around the people that have been through it. Continue to stay with it, just like this. Just do what I do. And I've got to be willing to do it for them. I got to be willing to sacrifice and put it out and not expect anything in return, because a lot of the time I go out there and I do it and they don't do it and they go back out, or people end up on the street, or you try to bring a good kid in, get him into mixed martial arts, and he ends up out. It's not really anyone's fault. There's another power working out there that ain't having nothing to do with God, and it's not in their power. They don't have the power to do it. So if you have the ability and the power as a coach and as an owner of a gym or anything to help someone, help them. Don't expect anything back though. If you're doing it monetarily, yes, you should be trying to make a living. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to really be that guy and be out there helping people, don't expect anything back out in the end. Just do it, and what happens, that kind of thing. So
couldn't have said it better. It comes from the heart, and when it comes from the heart, you expect nothing in return. When you want to see people do better and help, and I believe that that's what God put us here for. We're made in the image of God, so we all should love each other the same. There should be less violence and more peace and more helping.
And more podcasts like this, get a message out. Good stuff, man.
Brother, thank you. Before we get out of here, how can people come to the gym? Huntington Beach Ultimate Training Center.
Yeah. Just HBUTC.com. We only have 2 programs. We have a jiu-jitsu program, which is awesome. Got to have a jiu-jitsu program. Absolutely. And we have a razor striking system program too. That's cool. Rob McCullough's and Tiki came up with.
I talked about
Razor.
Shout out to Razor. I told this. Somebody was just on the podcast that talks to him. Waldemiro Perez.
Oh yes.
And I was telling him. I said, I saw Rob McCullough at a gas station in Santa Ana a while back. He probably was a little bit nervous to talk to me because I was dressed kind of thuggish and I was selling rap CDs. But I went to try to sell him a CD and he got kind of nervous. Should have bought my CD, man. It was good. And I knew I was like, that's the fighter. I was like, man, but it's all good, man. Respect, brother. Huntington Beach Ultimate Training Center. Guys, we need more coaches like this. It's been amazing. Hopefully, have you back on again sometime soon.
No problem.
I wanted to tell your story. I think it's pretty cool, how a lot of you guys are, the history of, especially in my area, in Orange County, California, where
this is the Mecca. This is where it started.
A lot of it got started here. So respect, brother. Cool. Thank you for telling your story on the Legacy Podcast. Guys, subscribe. Paul Herrera, the Hitman.
Right on.
Thank you, brother.
Pleasure, bro. Right on.